So let's get to it. I want to thank you again for coming in to see me this week and giving me an opportunity to outline for you some of the issues that we have. I'll submit some questions for the record. But here today, I want to focus my time on the very controversial issue of wilderness in Utah, particularly the wilderness settlement between the United States of America and the state of Utah. Perhaps we are blessed in Utah with the most beautiful wilderness available, or we're cursed with the most beautiful wilderness available because we seem to be ground zero for the wilderness debates that are going on. So as a consequence, Utah public lands have been studied to death for wilderness going all the way back to the Carter administration. And environmental groups tell the story of wilderness quality lands disappearing at record rates to OHVs and oil and gas development and so on. And while they say that, their proposals for wilderness have gone from 4.7 million acres, which was a factor in my Senate race in 1992, when my opponent introduced a bill in the House of Representatives to create 4.7 million acres, and as the public responded to that, backpedaled from that, and at one point in one of our debates said, I never said 4.7 million was the right number, and I had to remind him that he had introduced a bill to that effect in the Congress of the United States, to which he then tried to downpedal. Well, now their proposals have gone from 4.7 to 5.7 to 8.4 to 9.1 and currently stand at 9.4 million acres in the latest proposal. Now, FLPMA has a 5-point process as to deal with wilderness. Number one, conduct an inventory. Number two, conduct a wilderness review of the inventory and establish what are known as wilderness study areas. Number three, report the recommendation to the President. Number four, the President reports a recommendation to the Congress. And the point that everyone must remember, number five, Congress is the only entity that can designate wilderness. The only entity under the law. All of the rest of this is advisory. Congress is the only entity. Well, a wilderness study area, once it has been designated and recommended, is managed as if it were wilderness, awaiting congressional activity. And what we have seen out of subsequent departments of Interior is that they are willing to lock up BLM land as study areas and thus create de facto wilderness, and then the environmental groups block the Congress in every effort to designate wilderness, so they have created de facto wilderness with WSAs, and the Congress has been unable, for a variety of reasons, to designate wilderness. We've finally broken through that after more than 15 years with the designation of wilderness in the Washington County, one area of Utah. And it's very interesting that many of the environmental groups that fought us tooth and nail up to 48 hours before the chairman ultimately submitted the bill that included solution of the wilderness area in Washington County, now claim credit for it and say, isn't it wonderful that we have done a great job of creating this wilderness? They didn't want the bill passed because they want the WSAs maintained as de facto wilderness forever, and previous departments of the Interior have designated WSAs in inventory that goes beyond the FLPMA process and now are managing those as wilderness. Do you see where I'm going? As a lawyer, you should understand that this is a significant way of getting around the law. The United States and Utah, there's been a legal case, there's been a lawsuit, a federal judge has issued his opinions, and the U.S. government and Utah have entered into a settlement agreement with respect to that. And you are going to be the solicitor that's going to have to defend that agreement, because the environmental groups are trying to overcome it because of the history I've just described. They're going to try to say, no, 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 The Secretary has the right to conduct an inventory outside of the FLPMA process approved by Congress. The key issue in that lawsuit was, once the FLPMA process approved in the Carter administration had expired, could the Secretary continue to designate WSAs? And the federal judge said no. Once that had expired, Congress had acted. The Secretary didn't have the right to go beyond the time period given him for the inventory and the designation. And you're going to have to defend that lawsuit. You're going to have to defend that judge's opinion, and we need to know your legal approach to this kind of thing. My questions quickly, as my time is gone, but I'll just run through them and then you can respond as you wish. Do you agree that the Department's authority to establish new wilderness study areas under Section 603 of FLPMA expired on October 21st, 1993, which is the period of that first inventory conducted in the Carter administration? Do you agree that the Department has no authority to establish new WSAs, post-603 WSAs, under any provision of federal law? And do you agree with Federal Judge D. Benson that the settlement agreement between the state of Utah and the United States is consistent with FLPMA? And finally, does the BLM have authority to apply the non-impairment standard as enumerated in the Interim Management Plan for Wilderness Study Areas to lands that are not designated as WSAs under Section 603? These are the four core questions going to this issue. And again, at the risk of taking too much of time, I see a deliberate strategy on the part of groups that are not satisfied with what comes out of the inventory under FLPMA of saying, we will get a friendly secretary to designate something as a WSA, and then recognizing that only Congress can resolve this issue. Once it's designated and being managed as a WSA, we will do everything we can to prevent Congress from acting so that we can get de facto what we could never get under the legal process as established by the Congress. That's the issue. You can respond here now if you like, or you can respond in writing as you like. But I wanted to get all of that on the record very clearly so that we understand where we are on this most contentious issue in what I maintain is the most beautiful state in the Union. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman, Senator, I appreciate your comments, and it is a new area for me, this particular settlement involving Utah and the department and these wilderness issues, so I do think it'd be premature for me today to respond to them, but I would certainly look at those issues carefully if I were confirmed and work with the department and the secretary and analyze all the applicable legal requirements involving the designation of wilderness areas. So I would look at the issue closely if I were confirmed and in the position of solicitor. So thank you for your comments.
Thank you. Look forward to working with you.